Well, welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Surviving Life's Pickles. Man, we're excited to be here today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. It's a beautiful day to be alive, and we're excited to share this time with you today that you have chiseled out of your busy schedule to hang out with us. So thank you. We truly, truly appreciate the time that you spend with us every single week and that we get to hang out with you. So before we get into our episode and what we're really talking about, if nobody's listened to one of our episodes before, we always start off our episodes with what we're grateful for. We go around the circle and talk about that. And we do this because it helps set the tone, sets the mood of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it really helps us dive into the conversation deeper. But really, it's how we like to start off all of our days anyway in our personal lives is what we're grateful for. Because it just, we need to start it off and realize that every day we have is a gift. And once we realize that and you start practicing that grateful space of life is a gift and every moment we have is cherished, it's amazing what happens to your life. And so that's why we like to share this piece with everybody here as we go through each time. So I'm going to go ahead and start. We're going to go around the day. I'll start. And then Hillary, beautiful wife, hanging out with me today, who's going to go after me.
Thank you.
And then we have Carl Harman here today.
Hello.
So we're excited to dive into Carl. I've known Carl for probably 20 years.
That's probably true.
Probably pretty close. We've known each other through thick and thin and a lot of different things. And we're excited to talk about those things. So
it's nice to be on this side.
Well, we're excited. And thank you, Carl, for spending this little time. And it's your birthday today. So we have to give a shout out to Carl of happy birthday.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing it with us.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us on this special day.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, today I am grateful for friendships and not just friendships of, I have a lot of friends. I have work friends. I have home friends. I have family friends. We have a big friend network, but I'm really thankful for those deep friend relationships that you make with people throughout your life. And you might go years, you might go months, days, just depending on the situation without speaking to these people. And when you reconnect with them, it's like you were right where you picked off. And it's amazing to be able to have that connection with a person. And lately we've had a few people that I've known for a long time here on the show, and our paths crossed during the rough times of our life. And now we're all doing different things. And it has really enriched my life to have people like Carl here and to reconnect with you and talk about the crazy life that's been in between the last time we've seen each other and everything that's happened. So I am truly grateful for those relationships and for those real people that truly do care. And they always show up when the universe is calling them that you need.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, very nice.
Okay. You're up.
I'm up. Okay. Well, today, as I was saying before, I am filled with a lot of gratitude today, and it's almost difficult to choose one. But if I have to pinpoint one today, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be of service. We've been working on our nonprofit, moving it to a foundation, and I'm just so excited that we are in a place and we are in a state of mind that we can give back and that we can be of service to others. And it just brings so much enrichment to my life and so much joy. And it's one of my biggest gratitudes in constant, because there was a time in my life that I was not of service. I grew up with two parents that were very service driven, and they're the type of people that just give you the shirt off their back if you need it. And everybody's welcome. Everybody is always fed or loved or given something to leave with. And I'm grateful that they instilled that in me. But there was a time in my life that I was not giving back, that I was not being of service. And it really can cause such a hole. And when you are of service to others, it gives you so much, but to be able to give to others is one of just the greatest gifts in life. And I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to do that. So
I love that. Thank you.
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Carl? What are you grateful for today?
So yesterday I released my book and the Heart of Zen Recovery. And I just was amazed at how many kind people want to help. And it's a book about recovering from addiction and using the Buddhist path and mindfulness to do that. And it has my story in it, but we'll talk more about that later, I'm sure. But as I posted it across platforms, I was amazed at how much kindness. And then I got on my phone and was like, oh, I need to text the people that I told I'd text when the book came out. And I was sitting there for an hour just texting people and thinking of how wonderful they are. And I realized that I have so many loving friends that love me and I love them. And I'm so grateful. And they're happy that I'm doing better these days and that I've found this path. And it's just so neat to see so many people wanting to do good in the world, even if it's just as simple as helping somebody help people.
Yeah. And being that support system for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I had a bunch of friends take me out for dinner last night for my birthday. And then my best friend that helped me put the book together did all the artsy stuff. He's really talented at that. His name's Paul Butterfield, and he brought me a birthday cake this morning.
Well, that's awesome.
Sweet, which my wife encouraged him to do. So
it's always good to have that, right? Have that outside influence.
Yeah. Well, she's in Vietnam right now, so
okay.
I got to get something to him. Yeah. She's very sweet.
So she found a way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you both for sharing. I'm just excited for today. I woke up this morning and, we record all different times of the day. We'll do afternoons, mornings, nights, just whatever fits everybody's schedule. And this morning when I woke up, I was so excited that I get to start my day this way today.
Yeah.
It just feels right. It feels needed. One thing that we talk about a little bit on this is one reason that we do this selfishly is this is really for us. I mean, we kind of use it. It turns into almost a therapy for us. Sometimes we get to talk about things that we need to. And then sometimes we get the information and advice from others that we needed to hear. And so what a wonderful day to start it out this way. I'm just super excited and excited to talk to everybody about Carl. So like I started, we've known each other about 20 years.
Yeah.
We were both, at the time when we met, we were both in the automotive world.
Right.
So Carl, you owned a pretty nice body shop here in town for years.
Yeah. 17 years.
Okay. I didn't know it was that long. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I was a Napa rep at the time. So I was working for the local Napa store. And then we end up working with you on your paint products and all that kind of stuff. And nobody else wants to hear about that boring stuff. But so we've known each other a long time. We started out as kind of just being, customer relationship type thing, customer business relationship. And then I found out that you like to do back then, some of the things I like to do was go out and listen to live music, and found out you play live music.
Yeah.
And so we started, I bring friends and family, we come watch some of your shows, and it was really great. And it's interesting to see how life is just all these pickles in between when we first met to how we are now really shaped us into these new people that we are today.
Yeah. Right. It was back we were in the automotive world and then in the bar world.
Yep.
And the live music. And I didn't realize you were going through stuff at the time because I was too busy going through my stuff.
Yeah. We went through similar things. I mean, we caught up a few years ago and kind of talked a little bit about that. And Yeah, kind of went through some similar stuff. We both went through divorces and trying to get sober and finding spirituality and all these things. And our journeys look very different, but at the same time, they're very similar.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to start, Carl. Let's learn. Let's have everybody learn about you.
Yeah, Scott knows a lot about you, but I don't know very much. Let's start with where'd you grow up? What did your family life look like as you were growing?
Sure. I grew up in South Orem, actually pretty close to where my house is now.
Okay.
And I grew up in the LDS culture, the LDS church. And let's see. So I learned how to, do camping and hiking and all those fun things. And I still love those things. But when I was older, I kind of rejected the faith. I got really angry. And there's a lot about that in my book when I talk about my story. When I grew up, I was always a highly sensitive kid. And I felt everything always. I mean, ever since I was little. And I also felt like I never fit in with anybody. Like everybody went to like some secret normal people meeting and I wasn't invited. And so I always felt, I was like, when I was in 5th grade, I got into punk rock and I was like, oh, these are my people. And I, would try to comb my hair like Billy Idol or something like that. And I was like in 5th grade.
You had hair in 5th grade.
I did have hair in 5th grade. Yeah. And I'm going to grow out my hair all day today.
Yeah.
Nice.
Try to get it back.
That's really young to get into the punk scene.
Yeah. Well, I had some trauma happen young, and I had a lot of suppressed emotion that punk rock helped me accidentally get that out. Yeah. I didn't realize I just knew I felt better after I listened to something loud and he sang along with it and yelled about how life is difficult. And so I got super into like the Sex Pistols and Dead Kennedys when I was like in 5th grade. And my older brother was into them. But it was really good for me. And the Violent Femmes, I loved them. I still love them. I still love punk rock. So, but it really helped me to have a way to yell. And I was scared that my parents would find out that I was listening to stuff that cussed, stuff like that. And so I had to be careful. But as I got older, I got into skateboarding and I always wanted to play music. And so I remember me and my friend, we'd walk by this pawn shop and we'd go in and I'd look at these electric guitars and I'm like, I'm going to get one day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a rock and roll band. And then I did.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot with being able to get out the stuff, but it didn't help me transform it. Right. And so the Buddhist path has helped me learn how to transform the suffering. Punk rock was more like acknowledging I'm suffering, but then not doing anything about it other than slam dancing and going, everything sucks. And therefore, I guess I'll go back to work. I guess I'll go back and drink. I guess I'll get high or whatever, but it really didn't finish. Not that maybe there's some wisdom in certain punk rockers and stuff, but I was only on the angry part.
Yeah.
And it did help to at least get that out.
And so that really, music was a release for you at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a way for you to kind of connect to others that were maybe feeling similar things. And you said screaming it and just letting those emotions out that way.
Right.
So you continued down this path because, I came to watch you years ago playing and you've been playing ever since. You were playing all sorts of different types of music, which was great. You kind of expanded out of that punk rock into different genres. But you were doing all this and life just probably, correct me if I'm wrong, life wasn't everything you wanted it to be. You were still, seems like you were missing something. Is that correct? Just come to you.
Yeah, I was chasing. And what the thing was is I was looking for something outside of myself, which was only inside of myself. Okay. And so I got married at 21 and we ended up getting divorced about 15 years later, but we never really had a strong connection. And And it wasn't, I don't know. I don't really want to go too far into it, but it was because I was drinking and that sort of thing. I wouldn't let myself know how I felt. I was gaslighting myself, and I was trying to play music because I was alive on stage, right? I felt at peace on stage. It was like a reset when I'm on stage and when I'm playing, and you get into a guitar solo and you just flow with it. And so I was living to get on stage again. And then in between, I'd be drinking, almost like the fast forward button, trying to fast forward life to get back on stage. And I didn't, because of the drinking and all the different self-soothing type behaviors that I'd learned in my life, I didn't know how to feel anything. And so I didn't feel safe feeling things. I felt like I needed to be either calm or angry, but the anger couldn't be at anybody. So I kept stuffing it down. And inside me, I was becoming like a ticking time bomb. But so I would drink because it was getting too difficult. And the more you drink, the more you need to drink.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I was in high school, I had a really traumatic thing happen where a dear friend of mine that was only 15, if this isn't okay to talk about, you can take this out, but
we're an open book.
But she took her life, and she was only 15, and she was such a sweet girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any skills to deal with that. And so nobody in my family had any tools either. We're not a family that talks about mental health. We talk about get back to work, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I know they wanted to help, but they didn't know how. So what they did is I got on Prozac, and I remember for a whole year I couldn't see the color. And I remember I grew up around here, and I don't remember seeing color in the mountains. And we have very beautiful mountains around here. And one day I ran away and I went to a heavy metal concert and saw a band. They invited me back to go party with them, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was like 15 or 16. I don't know the age exactly, but when I got there, somebody offered me a screwdriver, which is vodka and orange juice, and I drank it. And it was the first time I felt something for over a year. And so alcohol started to save my life at that point, because I was so suicidal also. And the reason I say it started to save my life is because it helped me survive until I could learn how to survive on my own, which took like 30 years later.
Yeah.
And so I would, at that time, I didn't drink a ton. I would hide some in the house. I found there's always people willing to buy people some booze. You can always find it, it seems like. And so I just stashed some, and I drink it here and there. But then I got married and I drink it more, and we lived in Colorado. So even though weed wasn't legal yet, would smoke it all the time. It was practically legal already.
Yeah. It was accepted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I was just gaslighting myself, and I didn't realize how miserable I was. And the reason was I was leaving myself behind. Mm-hmm. And so I got divorced, thought that the next relationship would save me. And we got divorced after 2 years, and I drank way more after that. And I was drinking so much that it was like my sweat was bleaching my clothes. And apparently everybody could tell, even when I thought they couldn't.
You always think they can't tell, but in truth, it's pretty obvious.
Right.
Right. And so So I bought a house and I lived alone, and I'd pushed everybody away. And then I resented that they let me. And I remember drinking and waking up on my kitchen floor and being like, why did I sleep here? And my head hurts because it hit something. And I realized, oh, I didn't choose to sleep here. I guess a lot of choices added up to it. But so then I just kept drinking. I just laughed it off like, ha ha ha, and when somebody told me that they were going to quit drinking or something, I thought it was crazy. And amidst this, my brother, that was always my best friend growing up, he got on meth and he ended up in prison, and he did some things he shouldn't have done. And I was so angry at him. And I sat down with another paint rep who's my sponsor now, and he took me out to paint class for this is automotive paint. And
did you go to Reno?
it was California, because it was Standox.
Okay.
And we went out there, and man, I was so happy to be around my favorite beers and stuff. And so I filled my suitcase up with California beer to bring back, but I wasn't an alcoholic in my mind.
Right.
And so I sat down with who's been my sponsor since I got in the program. And he was at the time, he was my paint rep. So he had to buy all my food as well as my drinks. And here he is, like, he's sober.
Yeah.
And I was curious. I was like, how could somebody possibly not want to drink? Like, to me, it just was the only thing keeping me alive at the time. And so I sat there and asked him why my brother has a problem with meth when I'm totally fine. And he was so cool. Like, he was just was just like, well, and he just answered things, didn't go, oh, sure, you don't have a problem, like, which he could tell. He's been around alcoholics. He has a lot of people. And
he's definitely having this conversation with you very unjudgmentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he understands.
Yeah.
And only other alcoholics or addicts really can help other alcoholics and addicts, because they do understand. A lot of people are like, why don't you just quit? People used to always tell me things like, how much money you'd have? I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't be alive to have that money, because it was the only thing keeping me, because I was so suicidal. I would wake up in the morning, swear I was never going to do what I did the night before. And then by midday, my suicidal ideation's coming up again. And then I would go, okay, I got to stop that from happening. So I'm going to drink as much as I can to stop.
To chase those thoughts away.
Yeah.
Silence that inner voice that was yelling at you.
Yeah. And that was just daily. And so I remember my younger brother asked me one time, how come you can't stop drinking? And I was like, because I'll die. But it was going to kill me, but it was saving my life. Which
that's such a strong belief too, that the addict brain is in such survival mode that it literally tells you that if you stop, you're going to die.
Yeah. And I didn't have any skills to live a human life yet. And so, he didn't really understand that, because that's not been his life story. And so as I went on, I was suffering so much, and the depression was so much, and it was getting out of control. And I, like I said, I got married again, divorced again. And then I dated a few people, and then I got sober for 37 days. I had this really awful summer, and I swore I was going to stop drinking. And so I went to like one or two meetings, and then I literally quit drinking for 37 days. And during that time, I went out on a motorcycle ride up the canyon, and I was listening to the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's a really good book. And I tried to get friends to go ride motorcycles with me, but nobody could come. And so I was like, okay, in the book, he says, accept it as if you chose it. So I'm just going to go, this is correct for me to go by myself. So I went, and as I go up, I decided I'm going to stop and take a picture of every beautiful thing I see. And it's the Utah mountains.
Yeah.
You didn't get very far, did you?
So I would stop it and I'd just take a picture, and then I'd stop and take a picture. And I wasn't in a hurry. I was just going to take the day if it took that to do. It was the Alpine Loop. And
that's a very beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
very beautiful. And it was in September, so it was fall.
Yeah.
And so it's like I said, I was listening to the book, and at the end of the book, he says, he does a lot of question and answer, and he says something like, the questions is, how do you know when you've surrendered? And he says, when you no longer need to ask, was the last thing in the book. And instead of it saying, this has been audible, like it just stopped. And so I was like, is that the end of the book? And all of a sudden there's silence in my helmet, and I'm taking the loops, each band, and I see this old man, and he is waving at me. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking surrender. Just whatever life's giving is what is supposed to happen. So I pull over and I go, are you waving at me? And he has this beautiful smile on his face, and he says, yes. There's a moose right there, and I thought you might want to see it. And so I stop and I just look at this moose just laying down, just so beautiful and peaceful. And I've seen moose a lot during spiritual experiences, so I feel like that's my spirit animal. And I like to be a loner too. So, I'm like, wow, that was cool. What a neat interaction. Some guy never met just wants to show me a moose. And so he does. And his kids are probably all embarrassed. My dad always wants to show everybody everything. He thinks everybody's his best friend. Well, he is my best friend. I don't know who he is, but he was my best friend that day. And so I get back on my motorcycle and start it up, and I go, that was wonderful. And I started driving, and all of a sudden I was in the now, deeper than I've ever been in my life. And I had this beautiful spiritual awakening in that moment where I was the motorcycle was me, I was the road, I was the trees, and all the trees were smiling at me and rejoicing that I remembered who I was, which was them and you all and everything. And I was crying and laughing at the same time in my helmet. And I continued the rest of the ride like that. It felt like I was so at one with everything that there was nothing separating me from anything. And I was like, that's what they're talking about. And I rode the rest of the way and rode home, and I thought I was cured of alcoholism because I had a spiritual awakening. And it doesn't mean I didn't have a spiritual awakening, but I still couldn't drink like a gentleman. Yeah. But I had to try again, I guess. So I was like, I guess I'm going to be a awakened person that drinks. So I started drinking again. And then I was having all these spiritual experiences within it, but your spiritual experiences can happen amidst drinking, but it's harder to see them. Yeah. It's harder to notice. And I had this dream where I met this woman, and then I met a woman online, and I thought it must be her. And so I flew to Japan to meet her. And when I got there, I was like, this isn't why I'm here. We didn't have a connection like that. And so I drank. I drank a lot of sake and whiskey, and I drank myself sick so bad that I was like sick for 2 days. And of course, I'm always the victim as an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And the alcoholic mind was, even though I'd had that true spiritual awakening, that alcoholic mind was still there ready to jump in. The ego wants to jump in and take over any moment it can. And so I wake up one morning and I And I go, okay, I'm going to have a hangover. I'm going to go to the nearest Buddhist temple. And I look up on Google Maps, and, I wasn't really officially a Buddhist yet, but I'd been reading a lot of spiritual texts and Buddhism, even though I didn't really understand much. It felt good to listen to, like when I'd listen to it on Audible or read it. And so I see when the next bus is going to leave that way. And in Japan, the buses leave very much on time. And so I get down there and I'm like 1 minute late and it's leaving. And my alcoholic mind is like, of course this would happen to me. I try to do one good thing and it doesn't work out. I might as well go back to the hotel and just watch Star Trek all day and drink all day. And that was my literal thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I stopped. I practiced the pause, looked at my mind saying this. I was like, remembered Eckhart Tolle saying, accept the moment as if you chose it. And I was like, okay. I stopped. I stood there on the sidewalk and breathed. And I felt a lot of peace flow over me at that time, like everything was starting like vibrating, like at a higher frequency. And then I looked at the phone to see when the next bus was, and it was only like 25 minutes later. And I was cursing a God I didn't even believe in. Like, you did this to me. And I still don't believe in that kind of a God. Or actually, I don't know. It's okay. Whatever it is fine. And so I just stopped and focused on my breath and stood there and waited. And then the bus came. I got on the bus and I kept my phone out to make sure it's going the right way, and so I didn't have too far to walk back if I ended up having to walk back. And it took me to this beautiful temple, and I ended up having this beautiful experience with these monks that were there, and they were doing, I can't remember what the ceremony's called, but I put the correct name for it in my book. And they had this huge bonfire, and I ended up being there for this ceremony where they lit this bonfire, and everybody would put these little sticks that had prayers in it. And I got to just watch this, and I heard him chanting and everything. And I was like, wow, this is what surrender gives. Last time it gave me a guy with a moose and this spiritual awakening. And this time it gives me this beautiful experience of just being there while I couldn't have planned it. I got there just on time for them to light this bonfire under the large statue of Lady Buddha, which is we call it a bodhisattva of compassion. Her name is, in my tradition, we say Avalokiteshvara. In China, they'll say Guanyin. In Japan, it's Canon. And so it's this huge statue of this peaceful woman, this Buddha, a bodhisattva, which is bodhi means awakening and sattva means essence. So it's somebody that's the essence of awakening. A bodhisattva is somebody that could become a Buddha if they just choose to leave, but they decide to stay and help all beings. So she's holding this beautiful little baby in her hand too, and the statue, and she's holding it so tenderly and just looking out across the whole city. And like I said, my whole body's vibrating during this time, like this high frequency, and I'm just amazed at all of it. And I go back to my hotel, and I'm like, on the bus ride back, I'm like, I'm going to learn more about Buddhism. I couldn't figure out, I kept on Googling Lady Buddha and stuff like that, and I couldn't figure out what the statue meant, what this thing was that I saw. It took me years to finally have the words to type in the right things, but I knew it was special. And I remember this old lady, when the bonfire's going, bringing up this, she's in a wheelchair, and another woman that's younger is pushing her up in the wheelchair, and she's holding this prayer on the stick, and her face was just radiating. just this beautiful smile as she put the prayer in the fire. And it was just wonderful. And so that day I found, when I went back to my hotel, actually, I think I was on the bus going back, I started Googling Buddhist books because I wanted to learn more about Buddhism, because it felt like that was my next surrender. And so I found this book by a guy that I didn't know how to say his name. And it's Thich Nhat Hanh in Vietnamese, but everybody around here says Thich Nhat Hanh. Some people say Thich Nhat Hanh, but it's not, but he's Vietnamese. And the book was called The Heart of the Buddhist Teaching. And I was like, the heart, that sounds good. I've read some Dalai Lama and stuff like that, and I liked it. And because, like I said, I was reading a lot of spiritual texts, but reading it isn't the same as practicing it. And this teacher is so skillful at teaching how to practice it. It's almost like he talks in he simplifies it, because a lot of spiritual teachers, they overly try to make themselves sound all intellectual or something, and then everybody misses what they're talking about. They're trying too hard to say it too correct or something. And he's like, no, it's about finding the breath. That keeps you in the present moment. Where's your breath? The breath is happening in the present moment. So find the breath, and then you're present again. And stuff simple like that. But so I listened to the book and thought, wow, what a neat book. And then I got back to Utah, and I was standing in the same kitchen that I would pass out in and bump my head. And I heard this part in the book when he's talking about the first noble truth of Buddhism is, and I'd already known about the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths are this: suffering exists is the first noble truth. The second one is there's a reason suffering exists. The third one is there's a way out of suffering. And the fourth one is the Eightfold Path is the way out of suffering. So there's a whole nother 8 things that are the way out, that if we live in harmony with those, then we don't have suffering. And the Buddhist is said to have said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So, meaning, if I stub my toe, that hurts. But if I become a victim because I stubbed my toe, then that's suffering.
That's your choice.
Yeah. And so, so I knew those already, the idea of that, but I didn't know how to talk to my suffering. The first noble truth is that acknowledging suffering exists. But of course I'd go, of course it exists and I hate it, but he said we need to be gentle with it. He said to speak kindly to our suffering. And I was like, why would I be kind to depression? Why would I be kind to what they did to me? And I, all these resentments that every alcoholic has and everybody that doesn't have peace has and can't find their way out of. And so I decided, so what he said was we need to be so gentle with our suffering. Hold it like a baby, just like the statue was holding that baby. And he said to say, my dear suffering, I know you are there, and I am here for you, and I will take care of you. And so I thought, what? Okay, I'll try it. And I had a hangover that morning. I was still drinking. I closed my eyes. I stood in my kitchen, and I say, my dear suffering, I know you are there, and I am here for you, and I will take care of you. And I felt my suffering soften, like, finally, he's listening. Finally, he's hearing me. And I had this vision where I became that statue. And I was standing that tall in Orem, and I looked out on all the beings in Orem, and I saw the people trying to resent their marriage into harmony. I saw the dad that can't see his son when he wants to. I saw the mother that wishes there was a dad. I saw so many different people suffering in so many different ways. And yet I was standing there peacefully, looking at him and radiating. And I was like, this compassionate being. And I was like, and I all of a sudden it flashed in my mind that I'd passed out on that floor and hit my head before. And so I opened my eyes, like, and I'm just standing in my kitchen. I'm like, whoa, I just learned something very important, because I learned surrender. And so I started talking gently to my suffering. And it turns out it wasn't about alcohol. Alcohol was a symptom of an underlying condition. And the real condition was I didn't know how to take care of my suffering. I didn't know how to be me. I was a highly sensitive person pretending I wasn't. That's not an easy thing. That'd be like Mr. Rogers trying to act tough all the time, right? And my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, he's also a very gentle person like this. He was in the Vietnam War during that time, and he wouldn't choose a side because he goes, no, we need to save all beings. And he wrote poetry that was so peaceful and so beautiful that it got banned, and because it pointed too much to the real truth, that we need to love each other better, that bombs will never end war. And he ended up getting kicked out of Vietnam. He left to come to America to talk to us here. And he goes, I need to tell them that Vietnam's on fire and we need to stop the bombs. And he met Martin Luther King, and they became immediate friends. And Martin Luther King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you imagine being nominated by Martin Luther King?
Wow.
Being nominated at all, but by him.
Yeah.
And so he ended up not being able to go back till about 15 or so years ago to Vietnam. And he passed away about 5 years ago around, but he ended up teaching and he taught me. And so he, in my view, is a bodhisattva, a being that has dedicated his life to helping all beings. And so I started talking kindly to my suffering, and it turns out my suffering was trying to help me. It was like trying to say, hey, it hurts if you go that way, so don't go that way anymore. See this thing that we don't see, that you don't like that. This isn't a safe person to be around. You shouldn't be with them for a long time, and those kinds of things. And so it made me realize that those are guardrails. They're like our feelings are guardrails. Our emotions are guardrails. They're trying to help us in the way our body reacts to things. So the Buddha teaches that he teaches mindfulness, and the very first step of mindfulness, there's 4 establishments of mindfulness. And the first establishment is to come back to our body, which I was trying to escape always.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be in it.
Yeah. Because I didn't know how to navigate it. So I was taught to escape from the body.
Right.
Peace is in the future. But Buddhism is opposite. Peace is now. Heaven is now. The ultimate dimension is now. And so the first establishment of mindfulness is learning how to be in our human body. The second one is learning how to be at peace with our human feelings. The third one is learning how our mind works, watching our mind. And then the fourth one is phenomena, watching phenomena, meaning that the body will change. It's impossible for it not to. It will pass. It'll get sick sometime. It'll get older. It'll have a gray beard instead. And the feelings are not permanent. And also the thoughts aren't permanent. And so as you learn how to watch your body, feelings, and mind, then naturally you start understanding none of this stuff that I'm clinging to is even something that I can hold. And my teacher says, it's not impermanence that makes us suffer. It's wanting things to be permanent when they're not. We try to force it.
Oh, I like that.
Ram Dass says something neat too, that he says that there's so many people that like spend their whole life fighting their hairline, right? But all they have to, and he was a guy losing his hair as well. And he said, all you have to do is go, I guess it's there then. And now you're at peace.
Yeah. Just accepting it.
Yeah. Just surrendering to what's happening. And so I never drank since that day. I never used any sort of drugs or alcohol, and it saved my life. And I have spent a lot of time at monasteries, especially the Deer Park Monastery in Escondido, California, which is a monastery in the tradition of my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, which is very Western friendly. He tries to really help the Western mind be able to grasp Buddhism. And he, like I said, he's a very skillful teacher. We practice sitting meditation, walking meditation, working meditation, eating meditation, basically anything you can do where you're present. Like even right now, us being present with each other, this is meditation if we're present. But if we're sitting there thinking, when will this be done? Or something like that, that's not meditation.
Right. Well, that opens up a question, Carl. So for me, meditation and being present has been one of the hardest things of this whole journey. I mean, I was the guy, and I didn't realize that it was a problem until when we were first dating. One of our first dates was we went and sat in one of those salt bath tubs, the floating.
I've done that.
Yeah,
float spas.
the float spas.
Sensory deprivation tank.
5 minutes was about all I could last because I started panicking. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit with it. I couldn't be present. That was the moment, and I fought my way through it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the moment I realized that something is not right. I've got to be okay. Like, you should be able to sit. You should be able to relax. You should be able to do this. And so the way you're saying it, I see as meditation really just focusing on the present moment, focusing on what's happening with you inside or outside of your body at that moment. And I never thought about it that way till you explained it. But that's been one of the hardest things. And recently I kind of lost a little bit because I'd been on a pretty good practice. My meditation time for me comes when I sit in my cold tub, because at that moment, my body's forced to live in that moment to survive.
Definitely present.
I'm very present. But I've learned that when I'm in there, the first 30 seconds, you're getting adapted to that.
Yeah.
But after that, I'm able to sit and, like you were saying, come to my breath, focus on my breath, and just focus on that, and everything disappears. And when I kind of let that go for some months, I noticed a difference. And now coming back to it, it has allowed me to be more present in not only that moment when I do that every day, but it's in a lot of other things. I want to dive more into that about meditation for you, kind of how you try to do that on a daily, constant basis, and what things help you, because I know there's a lot of other people listening that struggle with the same thing.
Right. So we're talking about mindfulness meditation when we're talking about the 4 establishments of mindfulness of body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. But there's many types of meditation because we're working toward cultivating a healthy mind, right? Buddhism is also psychology. We talk about how things enter our mind all the time, like it enters through our 5 senses of the eyes, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, as well as they also just arise from the mind, coming up with solutions to things. I should put air quotes up for solution.
Solutions, yeah.
Because the mind is just coming up with what it thinks it knows.
Yeah.
But it's just a tool. It's not us. Our mind isn't us. So we're trying to garden. We're trying to water better seeds. So there's the 5 senses is how things enter the mind. Like if I see you, friend, get a good feeling, right? And since I heard you on the podcast, Hillary, I go, oh, I like her already because I've heard you. That came through my ears and now through my eyes. And so, but why though? Like there's a thing, there's the five. I hope I can explain this in a way that's I like to draw it on a whiteboard when I teach it. But so you have the five senses, and then we have the mind consciousness. That's what we're aware of right now. Like it's everything's staying in our subconscious mind, or we call it the store consciousness in Buddhism until I need it, right? Like, so I see you and all of a sudden the name Scott comes up and whatever thoughts I have related to you that have been stored down there, but I don't have to think about you all the time.
Yeah.
To know you. I don't have to sit there and go, Scott, 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 to remember your name, Scott. I just go, oh, there it is. And so that's our mind consciousness, what I'm aware of right now. And so between that and the store consciousness or the unconscious mind is what we call the manas. And this is the place where it loves pleasure and hates pain. But it also is kind of like the space where maybe our neural pathway networks are coming. So it goes, and if you're not familiar, if somebody's not familiar what neural pathway networks are, it's like every time, like when we're first learning something, we have we have to build a new neural pathway in our mind to remember that. So that's why we always say, oh, I'm bad at names. Well, if you practice it, then you'll get a better neural pathway that'll go from the store consciousness to the mind consciousness, and then you'll remember names better. And so as an alcoholic, my neural pathway that was the first one that would show up was catastrophizing, right? It was to catastrophize and to feel like a victim and to like even be so mad at a bus
because it left right on time.
How dare it leave on time? It should have known about me coming, but it didn't. It did leave on time, and I got there on time ultimately. And so when we have in Buddhist psychology, when let's say in our store consciousness through a neural pathway arises this flower or this plant that is a catastrophizing one, saying, everything happens to me. Of course, this happens. Why did they do that to me? We purposely at the beginning start watering a different seed. We don't gaslight ourselves and pretend that one didn't happen. It's in fact quite the opposite. We become aware that happened. Okay, anger has manifested in me. Depression has manifested in me. Right now, self-pity is in me. It's in my mind consciousness. So I purposely water a compassionate seed, which is that dear suffering. I know you're there and I'm here for you. And I wrap my arms around that one. And I say, I know it's hard to be you and I'm here for you and I'll take care of you. And then that seed stops rising as fast because your mind starts learning a compassionate seed's more beneficial than that catastrophizing seed. Or like, let's say the thought, I got to drink arises, then I water a compassionate seed. It's hard to be an alcoholic. I'm here for you. What are we actually looking for? And then I keep taking care of it. And, I'm over 7.5 years sober from alcohol, and I don't crave alcohol anymore. I'm not going to drink to try to test it out if it'll come back. But I've been around people drinking and it doesn't, like, I don't crave it. When I'm in a bad mood, I don't crave it. My brain's literally rewired. But that doesn't mean it can't become rewired again to be unhealthy. So I have to cultivate it every day. So there's 4 parts of this. There's the seed that the unbeneficial seed arises. So we water a compassionate seed. But an unbeneficial seed's not always rising. So in between, We purposely do things like the gratitude thing we talked about earlier, which we call watering flowers. So we water flowers. We look at the sunset. We look around at the mountains. We remember the conditions of happiness are available right here. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I'm talking about the true conditions. Friendship is a true condition of happiness. Like a podcast called Surviving Life's Pickles, and the fact that you guys talk about this kind of stuff and mental health and all these beautiful things, healing, that's a condition of happiness, a true condition of happiness.
Brought us a lot of happiness.
Yeah. And it's not gaslighting, right? It's opposite of that. So then what happens is the fourth one is that our mind is rewired. And that's when we were like a Buddha, where we can just stay in that. It works very beneficial. And it doesn't mean that it may be lots of different little things. So as we keep, we're learning to, I heard a guy say the other day that it's brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're literally doing brain surgery on ourselves.
Yeah.
But we have to understand, okay, do I want this one in my life anymore? It's not going to go away immediately, but I need to start aiming compassion at it because it's a more beneficial seed. Compassion is.
Yeah. So if somebody really is struggling just with an aspect of their life, then if we were able to take, you say we have this struggle, this catastrophic flower over here, and we start throwing that compassion at it, what does that look like? What type of things could people do to start small, Carl, to really start aiming that compassion towards that, to make it not as loud? What are some small things that people could do that have helped you?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the most important things we can do, let's say there's a really difficult trauma that we are terrified of looking at. Don't do that one first. We want to build up our mindfulness energy. We want to expand it so that it's so big. We want to practice it on other annoying things like missing the bus or somebody driving in a way we start noticing, oh, I'm trying to resent them into driving better. That's funny.
Yeah.
And as we start calling ourselves out on it, we start transforming our mind in these small ways. Because if we try it with the biggest thing, it'll be very difficult and we may give up. But we acknowledge that yes, that happened to me and I'm working towards it. You tell yourself that did happen and it wasn't okay. But you can say, dear suffering, I'm coming as fast as I can, but I have to learn this practice first. And each time we practice mindfulness, we are taking care of that one, even if we can't see it yet. When I first got sober, there was many things that I'm like, yeah, that's just too much right now. I can't touch it yet, but I'm coming as fast as I can. And now a lot of those I have been able to do those. And there's in my book, I have half of it. It's 344 pages, and 50% of it is practices, like Buddhist meditation practices, where there's three parts to that. There's and how we transform our mind. We want to transform it in as far as ethical conduct or morality meditations. So we have like loving kindness, compassion, joy. Joy is a way to get our mind to work better for us. But it's not like a joy. It's a sympathetic joy, a joy where I have joy even sitting with somebody hurting. I can feel the joy in it because there is joy in there, but it's not like a gloating type of a thing. And equanimity is one which is recognizing there's stillness underneath all of it. There's always that peaceful space. It's like some people call it spirit, some people call it different things, but I just call it, in Buddhism, we actually call it emptiness. But the word isn't important. It's the feeling more. So there's morality, concentration, and wisdom. So concentration are things like we learn, we start working on our mind. We want to start going, okay, my mind wandered off, come back to the breath, see how long I can stay now. Can I go 10 whole breaths and then back down to one? Meaning breathing in 1, breathing out 1, breathing in 2, breathing out 2. Can I get my mind to concentrate better? And we think, oh, I could count to 10 with breaths, but all of a sudden you're like on breath 3, and you're thinking, oh man, I forgot that one thing.
Yeah.
And so the concentration ones also have mindfulness of breath, mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of mind, mindfulness of phenomena. And then the wisdom ones are like reparenting, their inner child stuff. We're learning where the stuff came from, so we can see the truth in it. Like one of the reasons I don't want to drink anymore is because I recognize how bad I gaslit myself into living a life I didn't want. And so I don't want to do that again because I've gained the wisdom that alcohol will make me start gaslighting myself. And then pretty soon I'm be in a life situation that I wish I wasn't. And then I'll try to drink more instead of deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's made it so I've not known how to set boundaries because I wouldn't let myself know how I felt. And so how could I tell other people how I felt? And then I'd resent them for not knowing.
Right.
So as you cultivate your mind, we practice morality, but this is morality not in a waving your finger at somebody and saying, don't do that. It's recognizing these things are better for me and all beings. It's not good for me to steal from somebody. It's not good for me to kill somebody. But it's also not good for them to get stolen from or to get killed. And so we start looking deeper. Also, my speech matters. If I can't speak lovingly to myself, then I don't know what it even feels like. So how am I going to do it for somebody else in as skillful of a way? It doesn't mean you can't practice and be fairly skillful, but so we learn about our speech. And this book, I talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, which each one of these 8 are something that might be causing our suffering. And so one of them is our speech.
It reminds me of the saying that you can't fully and truly love someone else until you fully and truly love yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting as you're explaining this. I go back to, and before we started, I told you, a few weeks ago we had my friend James, who was a hypnotist, on the show, and I did a session with him earlier this week. And I keep going back to this session as you're talking, Carl, because he followed so many similar things that you're talking about when we're doing this, and he was able to help me go into my subconscious to find a memory, but every time we would go into my subconscious, we go down that path to find this memory that was blocking me, or this memory that was just holding me back because I had resentment against it, or I had different feelings that I was holding against this memory. He wanted me to attack this memory with compassion the moment. And so we would attack the memory with compassion of, this person did this to you, but look at it a different way. This person did their very best at this moment to try to teach you something, and you didn't understand their method. And so you held resentment against them. And so if you look at that situation, compassion now, then you look at it, they were trying to teach me this, and I was so closed off or didn't understand because of the age I was at that time. I didn't understand what they were trying to do. I just understand I did something wrong and I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that. It was they were really trying to help me grow and learn. They just didn't have the skills to teach me the way I needed to learn.
Right.
And so it's very interesting to me that a lot of these things that you're talking about today, and about how compassion really is the core of everything. Compassion, love really is. It's the core of being able to live a good life. that all of these different modalities, therapy, different spiritualities, different ways of living your life, all come back to that core. And so many people don't look at it that way, especially kind of here in the area we live in, right? It's very dominant with a certain religion. And it is that a lot of people have been taught through that of it's this way or it's no way. Like this is the way it's going to be. Instead of it's not, this is a good way, but maybe it's not the right way for you. Maybe it's a different way over here. And so it is looking at those situations, I guess, with that compassion and starting there of looking within.
Right.
Of how you're going to respond to that situation and how you let that situation affect you. Because for me, the one situation I'm talking about, it has affected me for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it. And I didn't really know it was affecting me until I was able to address it and look at it with a guide at a different perspective. And so I appreciate so much of just everything you're saying today, because it has helped me so much. Just bring all of this I've learned this week about myself and doing different things really to a head. Like it's amazing as you can see all these things you work on just come together.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought that it would have kind of come to this. Having a conversation here with you today, where all this stuff just kind of just comes together. That puzzle is now assembled, and I can look at it. And I just want to just truly thank you, because you've helped me kind of process this as you've been talking about some of this, and made me realize a lot of things about myself that I've been trying to figure out. So I'm so grateful for you to share some of this stuff you have today. It's been absolutely empowering for me, myself. So
I have a question. What inspired you to, where did that start?
Yeah, that's a good question. So about 5 years ago, I was at the monastery and I made friends with this woman she does all the cover art for Parallax Press, which prints the books for my teacher and other teachers within that tradition. And we would just talk. And I was like, they really could use a recovery-based Buddhist book in our tradition, because there's other recovery-based Buddhist books, but I feel like the way Thich Nhat Hanh talks about suffering is very important. It saved my life. Mm-hmm. So there's probably some other addict out there that needs that. And she's like, yeah, you're right. That's a good idea, Carl. And we kept talking about it. And then it was like, when the universe wants you to do something, it keeps
pushing.
Yeah.
I point you.
So it starts. So after I leave there, I'm like, oh, maybe I should. No, I don't write. I'm not even that good at typing. And so, I've always written songs, but that's different, is it though? Is it different?
Yeah.
It's, you connect with that flow state and it flows, and some days you don't. And so I just kind of set it aside. Well, maybe. And then the next time she happened to be there again, which she's not there that often either. And I go about twice a year. And so we talk again, and she's like, I think it'd be a great idea. And then the third time she's there again. And it was when I got ordained and basically took my tradition's version of a bodhisattva vow, joined the order of interbeing. And she's there and she goes, Carl, I think you're supposed to do the book. And I'm like, I know. But in the between, I've also ran into authors, like get invited to, like, I didn't know who, like, I'm not trying to, I just was ignorant. I don't really follow a lot of things that other people follow. Like I said, I still wonder if people secretly have normal people meetings that they know about things. And I'm like, that's what people all know about that, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. How do you all know? But so I get invited to this interfaith dinner, and I get invited to it, and I go to the address, and it's a mansion. I'm like, I turn to my friend, I go, wow, these people they're really well off. And he says, yeah, you don't know who Stephen Covey is? I'm like, it's Stephen Covey Jr. And he's also a really good author. And I didn't know who they were, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've heard of the book.
Yeah.
I had heard of that. So I ended up sitting right next to Stephen Covey Jr. and talk about one of the coolest guys, and I didn't know he was famous. I didn't know anything, but we just started talking about Taoism and Buddhism and mindful Christianity and all this stuff and just awesome people, really kind people. They live in abundance. And then I go and do a job. I do handyman stuff, and I go and do a job for somebody that wrote a book on depression for LGBTQ, LDS, ex-LDS people, or current LDS people, and stuff like that. And I'm like, fascinating. And I'm fixing her doorknob while she's telling me all this stuff. And I just keep meeting people that have just written a book anyway, and as I'm writing my book, I get imposter syndrome. I get, who are you to do this? And of course, there's some people that claim to be mentors, and then they criticize you instead of helping you believe in it. And so we get to choose who our mentors are.
Yeah.
They should be people that help us, not are not critical, unless it's a beneficial criticism, right? Which I think that's a very important thing to be able to take. So as I'm writing, I have imposter syndrome. I have days where I can't write, and I wrote like a lot of stuff. And first thing I do as I'd try to warm up, I get online and I'd go play these typing games to warm up my hands, because I wasn't very good at typing. And then I got better at typing. And some days I can really flow as I'm typing. I'm still not as fast as some of these people I see, but it's okay. I'm practicing. And so I wrote like 300 pages probably. And I finally stop and I go, no, this isn't what I meant to do. This isn't making the sense I want it to. And so I stopped. I still saved it all, because it's all research and lots of good beneficial things. And I used a lot of it, but put it in a different order. So I stopped and I was like, I'm going to write all the chapters and then just start writing one chapter at a time. And so then I started doing that. But then I looked more deeply into the Buddhist story of enlightenment. And before he became enlightened, he was Siddhartha Gautama from the Shakyamuni clan. And Buddha just means the awakened one. And he sat under the tree to become awakened. And he says, I'm going to sit here till I become fully enlightened. And the first thought he had was, who are you to become enlightened? And the fact that this practitioner that was already very skilled meditator, had so much going for it, a really skilled teacher and everything already, sat there, and the first thought was that. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to have these then.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to be a fully enlightened person. I've had spiritual experiences that were very beautiful. And so what he did was he touched the earth with his hand. And he said, the earth has witnessed everything and it will witness me. Anyway, we're just made out of earth anyway, right?
Right.
The 4 elements. And so I would remember that I'm worthy of this. And I even wrote about that in my book, that you're worthy of recovery. Because a lot of time we tell ourselves, I'm not worthy of recovery. Everybody else can figure it out, but I'm not. The steps won't work for me. The Eightfold Path won't work for me. That'll work for Carl, but not me, because he's whatever, And or we do the other thing where my alcoholism's not as bad as that guy. I've never had a DUI. I've never been to prison. And my sponsor always says, yet.
Yeah.
You could always add yet to those.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I don't drink during the day. On the weekends, I don't drink till after 12. All these things we say to make ourselves.
Chronic uniqueness.
I haven't lost. Yeah, right.
Yep.
I say
Terminal
uniqueness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Terminal
like
and
that.
chronic uniqueness.
Yeah. So so I just kept writing. And when I was in Vietnam, I was there for 90 days last January to May and went to the root temple of my teacher in Hue, Vietnam. And I was really close to finishing the main body of everything and then getting into the editing phase. And I try to self-edit as I'm going too, but editing is a lot, but it's fun if you're mindful about it. And so, but I was, when we were in Hue at the root temple of the Tuhu Pagoda, which my teacher was ordained when he was 16 there.
Wow.
And so we got to hear the sounds of the bell and hear the monks chanting. We got to eat amazing vegan food with the monks and nuns and stuff. And I just kept telling my wife, I was like, can we just stay one more day? I'm going to just keep writing. I just want to stay here and write. We stayed in this homestay, like 0.2 miles away from the temple. So we could just walk over there. Let's walk by the temple again and look at the turtles. Let's look at the lotuses. Let's talk to those monks if they want to. And I just would write. And then I go, can we stay another time? And she goes, yeah, Chom, I love it, which is in Vietnamese, it's very, Chom means husband. And she's Vietnamese. It's a term of endearment. Like it's very rare for them to call you by your first name. Because like if calling somebody wife or husband is like saying my beloved.
Yeah.
It's very loving. And so she goes, yeah, Chom, of course. I love it here. And so I stayed and I finished the book up there and it felt very special. I had a dream where my grandma, who was a very mindful person, but she was a LDS Christian person, but she was very present. She loved to garden and she shows up and touches my left arm in my dream and I felt support. And then I felt support from my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. And so every place I went after that, I would light incense and make this book an offering to all beings, because this is what helped me. And I hope it helps somebody else. Yeah. The heart of Zen recovery, because some people, the cool thing about Buddhism and Zen just means meditation, by the way, but is it's a practice, not necessarily a religion. It can be a religion. It can be practiced as a religion, but it doesn't, you can be a Christian and practice Buddhism. You can be an atheist and practice Buddhism. You can be a Hindu, a Muslim, whatever it is. You can do anything and practice Buddhism. And a monk friend I have, Brother Phap Yung, he says that you could change the title of Buddhism to How to Be a Human. And it would also be correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I've heard that from other people, or, for different things, that it is just about being whole with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Being recognized who you are, again, that human factor, and just being able to be present for yourself, but then next for the others in your life.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it sounds like the universe called upon you to write this book, and that it healed you along the way, and hopefully will be able to help heal others as well.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Thank you for saying it that way.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that you all do, and I hope it helps you. I try to encourage, that's why 50% of it is practices, is the practice is what saves us.
Yeah.
Reading about it doesn't. It's like looking at a map and saying, oh, I went to Thailand. It's not the same as going there.
I love how you started the book with your story.
Yeah.
And then goes into the practices, because then everything you talk about in your story, then people can understand the practices that you talked about and start using them in their lives. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great way of you putting that together. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I continue to practice.
Yeah.
But it's a better life this way. It's a practice that helps my life be much better.
Yeah.
And I've never had a better life. Even when there's difficulties, it's still a better life than it would be if I had alcohol and didn't have this practice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, Carl, I can't thank you enough. This has been absolutely amazing. It's been good to catch up with you and very enlightening for myself. And I would assume as Hillary as well.
Absolutely.
To
That's
hear.
wonderful. Thank you.
I can't wait to hear feedback from others. And I hope everybody listening will go out and grab a copy of your book. The easiest way to get it is on Amazon, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And one more time, just for everybody, the name and the title of the book is?
It's The Heart of Zen Recovery, Transforming Addiction into Peace, Joy, and Liberation by Carl Harman.
Yep. And I have to throw this out there because I've always been the one that screwed it up. It's Harman, Harman, not Harman.
Right.
So just to be specific there. So I encourage everybody to jump out. Well, Carl, as we kind of end, we always end our episodes a little differently where we give you a couple minutes here at the end. It's been a wonderful experience and we have loved hearing everything about you, but the time is yours to ask us some questions or maybe to bring something up that maybe has been on your mind. And we'll just kind of wrap up the show that way. So we'll kind of turn the time over to you. And if you have anything that's been on your mind for either of us, we'd love to jump in and kind of join that if you've got a question or two. And
even just last thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard you do this on the podcast I listened to, and I was like, take note, come with a question, and I didn't. But I'd, let's see. This isn't a question to be answered, but what is the essence of mind? As you've practiced with this mental health stuff, what is the essence of mind? The meaning? What's under the thoughts? Where does it come from? What is it? Because can a mind be broken? Is there a purity under it?
There's a lot to that question, Carl. And like you said, it might not be one of the answer, but the only thing that comes to mind for me is that it's the pure energy of love and compassion that is behind every part of us living. And for me, what would be underneath is that pure energy of love and compassion and caring about all others.
I think you said essence of mind. My essence of mind would be joy, love, compassion, family, connection, searching, and wholeness. I think that's what comes to mind for me. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
I love that.
As we end each of our episodes, I'm going to put the challenge out there. So much has been said throughout this podcast and so many beautiful things have been shared that you need to go out and share this with somebody else. If you're listening and if there's somebody out there that needs to hear this, please share this episode. We can't do this alone. We can only do this together, and we need your help to put this out there. Scott, you want to end us out?
Absolutely. And again, everybody, we're so grateful for taking the time today out of your busy lives to hang out with us, to be part of the show, to be part of the community, and to be part of the solution of helping each other navigate through life's challenges, surviving those pickles. So as you go through this next week, I want you to keep that in mind. We're all here together. We're all here to be part of the solution and to be compassionate to one another. And compassion can be as simple as keeping a smile on your face when you meet a stranger.
Yeah.
It can start with that. So that is our challenge for this week. And everybody, until we see you next time, we will have that smile on our face. We're going to work on sharing that compassion with everyone we come in contact with. We challenge you to do the same. And we want to make sure that in between the time that we spend today and the next time we're together, you remember that you're
Such a big deal to us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.